The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Wilder and I'm pleased for you guys to join us because we've got a lot of topics to talk about, of course, involving some local teams like the Bobcats. We also talk about what's going on in the NHL. Alex Rodriguez is back in the headlines in baseball, and no, it doesn't involve steroids, but we don't know just yet. And of course, these two fine gentlemen join me here. We have my co-host, and I'm pleased to be joined by Andrew Brethauer.
Thank you.
By the way. Andrew, or whatever you like to call it.
It's whatever this week. We'll just call it that.
It's been that type of week. A lot of busy stuff going on locally in sports.
Very busy.
And it's nice to you to kind of join us here in
Thanks
the woods and be here. And as well as you are the marketing guy, the man who kind of oversees the whole business aspect of the Lloydminster Bobcats.
Good to be here, fellas.
Unsung hero. And we're pleased to be joined by you as well to have time here. Malcolm Radke, that is. And you know what, Malcolm, we'll start off with the Lloydminster Bobcats and kind of kick things off.
Absolutely.
I know, this is a team that you love and you hate to, say anything negative, but we're going to have to. What's wrong with this team? They've struggled a little bit. And I don't know, like a lot of people are saying they might not even get out of the first round. And it really depends on who they face. Because you have Whitecourt, who's played pretty darn good the second half of the year. You also have Drayton, who's all of a sudden vaulted up to 5th place when they looked like they weren't even going to make the playoffs at all to start the season. And then you also look at Sherwood Park, who was not necessarily a team that you want to face, and you'll get to that in a moment. But your thoughts, but once the season is over after Fort Mac, what is a team that's going to be the toughest for the Bobcats to face? And then on top of that, what's a team that they would like to see in the first round?
Yeah, well, I mean, to put my rose-colored glasses on, we're not afraid of anybody. Like, we've struggled with a few of those bottom half teams lately, for sure. They've been playing playoff hockey since Christmas, just, struggling for position, jockeying for position. So they've been going for a while. And I think this latest kind of push from those two teams under us, Fort McMurray and now Bonnyville, it's been good to get the guys in playoff mentality. You just got to love this time of year. Every game matters. Every point is huge. So it's looking more and more like we're going to play Whitecourt. Say what you want about Drayton Valley, Sherwood Park, Whitecourt, whatever. We're ready for them. It's same matchup as last year, and I'm sure they'll be looking to seek some revenge, no question. It was a great series last year. We snuck out of Game 4 and then took them in Game 5, so our fans will be pumped up for that one. It's a great little rivalry forming with those guys. So, but
in terms of a team that you would say personally that you wouldn't want to face right now, or there's got to be one.
Drayton Valley is hot, no question. Yeah, it's crazy that they're in 5th. They caught up to Sherwood Park, who was battling with us for 2nd, a month ago. So you look at them. If playoffs were to start today and they played Fort Mac, they'd give Fort Mac a great run because they just beat them 2 in a row last weekend. So it's going to be a great first round. There's absolutely no guarantees. I think if you're Spruce Grove, you appreciate that first round bye more and more because there's no gimmies in this league. And in terms of the Bobcats, how do we match up? In playoffs, there's a few things that matter: special teams, goaltending, coaching, and we're fairly strong in all 3 areas. So that's where I'll, hang my hat and we'll see what happens.
All right, Andrew.
I'm not going to have the rose glasses on.
For sure, man. Give it to me.
I would be a little iffy about playing Whitecourt because of last year. There is some history. The teams know each other in the playoffs. They went to 5 last year. It was a 3-6. This year's 2-7 if that's the way it works out. So I would be a little scared for Whitecourt just because of that history and that there's, it's a team and when going into the playoffs, knowing your opponent is another proponent to winning. But then you look at every other team. Sherwood Park's not a team I wouldn't want to face, considering Lloydminster's not scoring a lot of goals, and this team doesn't give up a lot of goals. Yep. And then, like you said, no one wants to play Drayton, who one of the hottest team probably right now is the hottest team in the AJ. So that whole bottom, like you said, there's so much competition. There's not a free game. There's not here's a win, here's the next series. Let's move on to tight. We're thinking of round 2. Like Bobcats are thinking of round 2 of wanting to host home. But they're definitely not thinking of that home series. That's definitely way in the future. We got to think about who we're going to beat in the round 1, and I think any series is going to go 4, probably 5.
Yeah, exactly. There's no free games. You got to beat them all to get there. So
let's move on to the NHL, and there's a lot of teams that are jockeying for position. A lot of teams are just outside of the playoffs, trying to reach it. Florida being one of them. You look at Boston just scraping through, holding on to a wild card spot. With all that's kind of transpired, is there a team, even Vancouver with the situation with Ryan Miller, is there a team that you say is on the cusp or potentially could drop out of the playoff picture or has the most stress on them out of all the wildcard teams in there right now?
Definitely those teams that are, previously Stanley Cup contenders, the Bostons and the LAs. I think once they get there, it's anybody's game, and once you get to playoffs, that's when everything heats up. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on them. Teams like Florida, even you look at the Calgary Flames, they're just riding momentum right now and exceeding expectations. They're just playing hockey and having fun, and I mean, the pressure is definitely on those previous contenders, but obviously they come through when it counts.
I think the two are Boston and San Jose. Boston's in, San Jose's just trying to get in, and if either of them miss it, GM's gone and coach is gone, and that's shocking to think that they're experienced coaches, experienced GMs, and really coveted coaches and GMs, and that they won't be able to work long. So if they lose out of the playoffs, Toronto might have a new coach or GM coming up soon. They're going to have a freebie shot at it. Or a lot of teams are going to be wanting these types of or GMs and coaches, and so I think those are the two major teams that are. I think the eyes are on them so much because they are. It's the San Jose who's never actually got to that level, and Boston obviously being the Cup contender. So those are two major teams that have a lot riding on the next couple of weeks of hockey.
We'll continue with the whole debate about trade deadline in a little bit in our next segment. I want to get to this right now because as a boxing fan, I'm excited. Floyd Mayweather, Money Mayweather taking Pac-Man. He's taking on Manny Pacquiao. Now, this is a fight that should have happened 8 years ago, but finally is going to happen this May. With all that's transpiring in sports and with all that's going on, of course, boxing, the hype machine, $99 is what they're paying for pay-per-view. I don't know if you pay that, but it should be interesting.
Somebody is.
Somebody's going to.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, is this a fight that is still worthy of watching, or has it gone by the wayside because of how old these guys? They're now in their late 30s.
It's definitely missed its prime, which really, it's terrible for boxing because you would have loved to have this 4 years ago, 5 years, 8 years ago, but it's still going to draw. People are going to pay $99 to watch this fight. People are going to, go pay how much tickets or prices are going to be for this. They're going to go to watch this fight because this is the fight of the century. This is your Foreman, Ali. These are the big fights that people want to see, and there's no other massive fight around anymore. So it missed its mark, but it's still relevant because that's all boxing has left is those two, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Boxing obviously is it's not as popular as it once was. It's a little bit of a niche sport. It's got its diehard fans, and those fans are certainly going to pay for it because it's one of those can't miss fights. So you can't go wrong with that matchup. It's maybe their last ditch effort from a marketing standpoint. You see the UFC do it all the time with dream matchups, and I mean, it'll be a good fight, no question. Is it late? Yeah, probably. I mean, I had to look up what you were talking about when you sent the question because, boxing is just one of those things. It's less sexy than it used to be. I mean, somebody who's a fan of it can definitely appreciate the technical side of it, the strategy to it. It's cool to watch. It's fascinating, but at the end of the day, it's maybe not as popular as it once was.
Well, Malcolm, you set this up, and I want to ask you this in particular. You are a casual fan. You're like, you know what? You'd watch it if it's a good fight, with the hype machine, UFC being a prime example.
Yep.
But with Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao being as old as they are, one that you said, a matchup that would have happened, it would have been great years prior. For you as a casual fan, would you go and watch it still? Now? Yeah.
I think it's one of those social things where if a friend has it on at their house, I'll go over and watch it with 8 or 9 or 10 people. Am I going to go out of my way to find somebody watching it? Probably not so much. It'll be, one of half a dozen, especially with all the other things going on in sports this time of year. It's pretty competitive time of year. But like I said, if somebody I know has paid for it, absolutely I'd watch it and shop with them about the fight, because that's really what the fun part is when you're BSing and predicting and all that.
Well, it should be interesting to see what happens there. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we return with gloves are off, we got some topics about the NBA trade deadline, winners and losers, and what could happen in the National Hockey League with their trade deadline coming up in March. Stay tuned.